This is a country that poses no threat to the United States of America. And if you guys want to like try to like
what is he talking about? They openly say death to America. That's the first sentence they say. Death to America, death to Britain, and death to Israel.
Konstanton, why are you an Israeli? Why are you constantly running cover for them?
Because I believe in speaking the truth and being honest instead of dragging in stuff that's irrelevant.
When Dave is actually being schooled, he's like, are you an Israeli? Why are you protecting them? Let me translate. You're actually good. Why are you protecting Israel? Hi guys, this is Official Sahar TV, and today we're going to be watching Konstanton Kisin debating Dave Smith on the Piers Morgan show about Israel versus Iran. Rather, the IRGC, I should say. Let's take a look.
I'm sorry, I just find this to be too ridiculous. All of the intelligence is saying that they don't have nuclear weapons and they're not pursuing nuclear weapons. There is one country, one government in the Middle East that is not a member of the non-proliferation treaties that has nuclear weapons secretly. And it ain't Iran, it's Israel. It is so ridiculous.
Well, I agree it's absurd. As you know, I agree. Look, I agree. I don't understand how Israel is allowed to continue pretending they don't have nuclear weapons.
But what are you saying? Are you saying Israel, Iran should develop nuclear weapons to compensate for that reality? Or
no. What I'm saying is this, okay? Whenever you guys talk about this, even already, and Piers, I got to say, I thought you were a little bit guilty of this right after October 7th, understandably, perhaps so. But even right now, whenever we talk, it's all about the Israeli perspective, as if we're all Israelis. Oh, Israel can't take the risk that they have 60% enrichment. Israel can't get this wrong the way I could change my mind about supporting Donald Trump. I guess Israel can get it wrong when they lure America into a war, when they pump out propaganda saying that Saddam has weapons of mass destruction. That's okay when they get that one wrong, but they can't get this one wrong. Okay, fine.
Why are you blaming Israel for that? It was your own government lying to us about that. I was protesting against the war in Iraq exactly the same way you and Piers.
I think we all oppose it.
But it was our governments lying to us. It wasn't about Israel. Why is everything that happens in the world the fall of Israel Day?
Because everything is the fault of the Jews. It's pretty obvious. But also, I don't understand the problem of Israel having nuclear weapons. Israel doesn't use their nuclear weapons as a sword like Iran wants to use it. They want to use it as a shield, as a last resort. If the existence of Israel is truly threatened, that's when it might be used, but it's not used as a sword like Iran wants to use it, to annihilate Israel, to annihilate America. What an absurd argument.
This is such a blatant straw man. I didn't say everything in the world is the fault of Israel. I'm saying they were also guilty of this.
But why are you putting the emphasis on them when George W. Bush and Tony Blair were using their bully pulpits to make this point to a far wider audience than some guy in the Middle East called Benjamin Netanyahu?
If you think that I am removing any of the blame from George W. Bush or Tony Blair, I assure you, you're wrong, and you don't know what you're talking about. I've been blasting them for years. They're war criminals who should be in The Hague.
I agree.
That is not the issue. We are talking specifically about the nation of Israel right now, so I'm talking about their responsibility. And why is it, by the way, that this is always a one-way street? You know, I hear all the hawks constantly being like, Iran said this, Iran threatened this. What about the threats in the other direction? Maybe Iran feels like they don't have a choice to not. So look, Muammar Gaddafi, Iran is on the list of 7 countries that are supposed to be overthrown. The U.S. government went and overthrew both of their next door neighbors, invaded the countries and destroyed them after putting Iran on the axis of evil list when they had nothing to do with 9/11. And then when Muammar Gaddafi denuclearized, they went in there and overthrew him in the most violent, brutal way, was sodomized to death by a pack of madmen. Maybe Iran also feels that they can't get this one wrong. Why are we doing this? This is a country that poses no threat to the United States of America. And if you guys want to like try to like
what is he talking about? They openly say death to America. That's the first sentence they say. Death to America, death to Britain, and death to Israel. America is the big Satan for the IRGC and the Ayatollah regime. Israel is the little Satan. They call for the destruction of our countries. What is Dave Smith on, and why is he always against Israel and against the Jews? Does he try to get gifts? What's going on? Why is he always against Israel? Is that like trendy now for you? These comedians are actually funny, but that's the only time that they're funny.
Try to like hang on the fence here and go, hey, I'm not telling Americans what to do. I think Israel should do it on their own. But that's just a fantasy land. They're not doing it on their own. They're doing it with our weapons, with our intelligence support, with our money, with us protecting them from a retaliation strike, and at least possibly with our president using negotiations to dupe Iran into thinking that they weren't at risk. I mean, that's...
Yo, Dave Smith is actually retarded. retarded. Of course we're using the American weapons because we have a line of credit. We have to use this line of credit to purchase weapons only from the US and use technology used and made in the US. Of course we're using F-35s made in the US because only the US manufactures F-35s. Ukraine also uses American technology. Turkey also uses American technology. Saudi Arabia also uses American technology, but nobody complains about that. But when Israel is obligated and forced to buy weapons from the United States, their biggest ally, that's a problem all of a sudden when they use American technology. So what do you want them to use? Sticks?
That's what Benjamin Netanyahu says, and that's what some other reporting says. Maybe that's not the case, but either way, he pretended like he was afterward. So no, none of this is being done without America. This is about a regime change war. All of them said it in their own words. They're on record. Do you guys think Benjamin Netanyahu has been mistaken for 30 years, claiming that Iran is a year to 3 years away from a nuke? Or was he lying?
Well, I think, listen, I think the reality is the thing that struck me was going from 3% to 60% suggests an intent. Yeah, it suggests an incontrovertible. No one disputes.
They're not the only country that does this.
But nobody disputes that Iran has gone from 3% to 60% in uranium enrichment, right? So that is all. Unlike with Saddam and the WMD that didn't exist, that is indisputable. It's just how you interpret what they're intending to do with that. Now, let me ask you,
Can I just one quick thing on this? So first of all those regime wars you're talking about are the fault of the US and other Western governments who pursued them. That's who's responsible. That's who should be to blame. And as you say, should be prosecuted for that. But the reason people rightly call you a moral relativist, Dave, is that you don't seem to understand the difference between, yes, I think it's quite clear that Benjamin Netanyahu wants regime change in Iran, but that is not the same as the regime in Iran wanting to destroy Israel. There's a big difference. If the mullahs in Iran wanted a different prime minister of Israel, that is not the same as wanting to destroy their entire country. And the reason Israel is as paranoid about these things as it is, let's be honest, it's surrounded, or at least was until recently when opinion in many Arab countries changed towards Israel, thanks to President Trump's Abraham Accords. Israel was surrounded by many, many countries who don't believe that it has a right to exist. And that's the difference. And that's why people call you a moral relativist.
Well, okay, well, that's totally ridiculous and makes no sense at all. And it only works. I'm about to answer, Konstantin. Let me finish. Because it only makes sense when you only say, I ascribe the worst of intentions to this regime and the best of intentions to this. What was overthrowing Muammar Gaddafi? Was that simply replacing the leader, or was that destroying the country, turning it into a failed state?
You've brought in a different conflict. Let's stick to Israel and Iran.
No.
The Israelis say we want regime change. The Iranians say we want to wipe you off the map. So that's pretty different.
Hold on. So I'm the moral relativist.
Yes.
But then when I point out what one side actually did, you run away from it and say, oh, no, we can't talk about that.
It's your government that destroyed Libya. It's not Israel.
It's your government. Do you know anything about this? Israel was lobbying for us to do this for years.
Who made the decision to do that?
Our government, and I hold them criminally responsible.
So blame them.
Yes, Konstantin, why are you an Israeli? Why are you constantly running cover for them?
Because I believe in speaking the truth and being honest instead of dragging in stuff that's irrelevant.
Dude. When Dave is actually being schooled, he's like, are you an Israeli? Why are you protecting them? Let me translate. You're actually good. Why are you protecting Israel? That's the translation.
No. It's not irrelevant at all. What are you talking about? Yes, my government is criminally responsible for the wars that they launched. And the Israeli government is also responsible for constantly trying to lure my government into more wars. That's what I'm standing up against right now.
So the American government is so gullible that they just go around invading countries on the say-so of Israel.
Again, what a straw man, dude. Benjamin Netanyahu came to America in 2002 and testified before Congress that the U.S. should overthrow Saddam Hussein, Muammar Gaddafi, and the Iranian regime. This isn't a secret. He's advocating that we fight more wars. And I'm telling you that this war, which we do not need to fight, which is not in our interest, has the potential to be devastating to our country, let alone the region. What is the moral relativism in any of that?
Devastating in what way? If you destroy the IRGC and the Ayatollah regime, everybody is going to benefit from it, including the United States. And the only people that's not going to benefit from this is the IRGC and the Ayatollah regime. That's it. It's amazing for the Middle East. The main funders of terrorism, the IRGC, is going to be destroyed. No more Hezbollah, no more Hamas, no more Houthis, and no more people that seek the destruction of Western countries, of Israel, of America, of the UK, of Australia, of the free world in general.
Explain to you what the moral relativism is. One side wants to wipe the other one from the map. The other side wants not to have people who want to do that in charge of that country.
But
that's
Pierce,
the difference.
But Pierce, do you not get my... Let me just see. Pierce, do you get my point here? This is what they said from the very beginning of the war in Gaza. Israel doesn't want to wipe Gaza off the map. Israel just wants to retrieve the hostages and get it. But they are wiping it off the map. So why do you just get to have this standard where you decide what they want to do? I can't base it on their track record. We can't look at Iraq. We can't look at Libya. We can't look at Afghanistan. Evidently, as all the hogs can see, we can look at World War II. Everything is just like World War II. But it's not like the last 25 years of terror wars. These guys have wiped countries off the map left and right.
Well, as you know,
it's their track record.
Yeah, as you know, I've been increasingly critical of the Israel strategy in Gaza. It makes no sense until you hear people like Smodrich talking brazenly and openly about ethnic cleansing. I mean, it doesn't make any pretense. And at that point, I do think that there are certainly people on that in that government at senior level who absolutely want to get all the Palestinians out of Gaza, out of the West Bank. And if that has been their plan all along from October the 8th, then I was duped, and people that feared that were correct. And we'll have to see how that plays itself out. I hope.
Well, even if a government official said this, this is not a government position as a whole. So still, why stick to one thing that one person says and stick it to the whole government of Israel? It's absurd, and it's demonizing and dehumanizing only based on one person said. If I go according to what Rashida Tlaib said and take it as a government position, you know, about Israel, then the government of America is anti-Semitic. But I'm not looking only at Rashida Tlaib. I'm looking at the government as a whole. Why are you looking at one person? And again, I don't have the context to what he said, or when he said, or what he said, or if he said, but still, same example.
I hope that is not going to actually be the case, and that people who say on the Israeli side, they say to me, well, you know, Smodrich isn't the government. Well, he's a pretty senior member of that government, and he's not even hiding what he thinks should be happening.
Dave Smith is a clown. I really don't know how he keeps getting invited on these online debates. I guess Piers Morgan likes the action and the yelling and the shouting. He gives irrelevant points. He says Israel is using American technology, Americans involved. Well, we've been purchasing American technologies for many, many years now, because that's the deal that Israel has with the United States. They give us funding, and we give them back the funding to buy weapons from the United States, so the US can get richer. So what do you want us to do? How do you want us to fight this? And if a neighboring country openly calls out for the destruction of America and of Israel, and they want to develop nuclear weapon, what do you think they're going to do with that nuclear weapon? They're going to play soccer with it? What do you think they're going to do? They're going to use it against Israel, and they're going to use it against America, and they're going to use it to start a war, because their life begins at death. They don't care about dying, the IRGC and the Ayatollah regime. You know, life in Jannah is much better than life down here. Don't appreciate life like we do. That's why Dave, the westernized person, doesn't understand that mentality. And that's why he doesn't understand Iraq's mentality and Saddam Hussein's mentality. Great responses from Konstantin. America has a responsibility to decide whether they want to go to war or not going to go to war. If Israel lures them in, they have no backbone to decide for themselves if they want to go to war. What an absurd claim. What an absurd and disgusting claim. Great video. I'll include the full video down in the description below so you can watch the whole thing. And thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to support me financially, you can do so through Buy Me Coffee or Patreon down in the link in the description. Bye-bye. I'll see you again.